Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Hope y'all had a wonderful new year. Glad to bring this new year in, and I hope everybody's doing great. But I had Eric, Mr. Eric. He asked a couple of great questions in the last video I did, and I just wanted to address those. I know I've been slacking, but just a lot going on, holidays and everything. But getting back at it. I want to make sure I say exactly what he asked, just so I don't mess anything up. But to get straight to it, he says, John 14:6, when it says, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. He asked me, what will happen to all the people who have lived and died who never heard of Christ? Do you believe they'll go to hell? Remember a passage in the Bible somewhere that says that God reveals himself to everyone. And can you clarify what that means? Because a lot of people see Jesus as just another prophet. God reveals himself to everyone. That seems to suggest that other religions can come to God, which contradicts what Jesus said above. It says, have a Merry Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year as well. But hitting on that first question, what will happen to those who don't hear about Jesus? And it's a very serious thing. And you could have something against God. I guess you possibly could if everybody was innocent. But like the word says, Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So there are no innocent people whatsoever in this world. Everybody who reaches the age of accountability have the ability to know the difference between right and wrong is guilty because of sin. And there are no innocent people. So because of that guilt, no one can get to God without Christ. So the people that never even hear about Christ, and I know it sounds so harsh. It really does. But there's no innocent person. And God is sovereign. He knows who will accept and who won't accept Christ, but he still says that he's willing that none should perish. But that's where you get the importance of Christian missionaries and Christian missions, to go out and reach everybody that we possibly can with the gospel. And even when you do that, people still won't accept it. Those unreached people groups in Japan, and in tribes in the jungle and all that type of stuff, unreached people groups, they still might not accept Christ, but we still have to try to get to them with world missions. And that's why it's important to give the people that do that, and for people who have that gift of evangelizing in that way, to go out and do that and fulfill the mission that Christ has given them. So moving on to the next part of what you asked, says, well, yes, and people that never heard of Christ, they will go because nobody's sins have been forgiven, and God can't take guilty people into heaven. And as he gave himself up just so that we could have that guilt taken away. And I just think that just blows my mind. But also says, I remember passing the Bible somewhere where it says God reveals himself to everyone. And you're talking about Romans 1 and 18 to 20, where it says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. But since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. And God puts it within every man to know that there is a God. But the thing, what happens is, because of human arrogance and human, I guess what you want to call intuition, I don't know, but we try to get to God in our own way. And that's where the problem lies, is when we say that I know that there's something, but I want to get there in my own way instead of just trying to seek him. That's when we have the issue. Like Nimrod, Tower of Babel. He says that, I can build this pyramid to get up to God, get up to heaven on my own without God himself. And that's, you take Adam and Eve when they sinned and they brought this shame onto humanity. And have you ever thought about this? If we come from apes or anything like that, anything to do from a common ancestor or something like that, why do we wear clothes? Why do we have shame? Why do we have these things? If you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, things like shame and wanting to wear clothes and these emotions we have, they just don't add up. But I can do another video on that for another day. But going back to that point, when they sinned against God and now their relationship with God is jacked up, what do? They don't go running to him, they flee from him. And they try to put the leaves to cover themselves, to cover up their shame. But man can't cover his own shame. It takes God to do that for them. And just like Adam and Eve putting those leaves on them to cover themselves, so does the same thing that all religions do. Is man trying to account for this feeling that we had and trying to make up what we lost when Adam and Eve sinned. But there's a thing. What did God do for Adam and Eve after they tried to cover their own selves up? He gave them animal skins. God had to do that to cover themselves. And what does that imply? It implies that an innocent animal had to be killed and its blood be shed to atone for the guilty. And that's just a picture of what we get in Christ. God himself came to give himself for guilty people so they would have a chance to come to him. And that's just a picture of the gospel right there. And that's the problem with what we do. We try to get to God in our own way. And yes, God puts it within every man to know him. And we have another example in Romans 2:14 and 15 and 16. I read that and it says, "For when Gentiles who do not have the law do instinctively the things of the law, these not having the law are a law to themselves, and that they show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts alternately accusing or else defending them, on the day when, according to my gospel, God will judge the secrets of men through Jesus Christ." So what is he saying? Men have a moral system. They have a moral compass. Do some listen to it entirely? No, we don't. We're imperfect human beings. But God has put that within us to show that there is that he is that, and that just, let me back up, that just shows our morality, our sense of morality just shows that there is something that tells us within us, our conscience, what's right and what's wrong. And yes, we skew that, we get it wrong, but it's there. It's still there and always be there, because that's part of what being in the image of God is, because God is spirit, doesn't have an image. That's what that means when it says that we have the image of God. It has a lot of other meanings too, but it's not talking about the way I look on the outside. So getting back, trying to understand that and dig through that, I want to pick my words carefully because I don't want to paint a bad picture about what's going on, but God has put it within every man to know him and to seek him. And the only way that we can be able to get to God, this perfect, holy being, this supreme being, the only way we can get to him is if he comes to get us. Christianity is the only religion where the God comes to be shamed on behalf of his people. And he comes to say, I know you're not perfect, but I'm going to make you perfect, because you can never meet my standard. So I'm going to come and do it for you. It's nothing else does anything like that. And that's, it's different from there's nothing similar. There's nothing like that, where the God comes to be shamed and killed by his own creation for his creation. And it sounds crazy. And it just blows my mind thinking about that all the time, what God actually did for us. But I hope I answered your question. I really just want to recap is God puts it within every man to be able to know that there is something out there. But what the problem is when man tries to get there on his own. And God has revealed himself to us today. He's revealed himself to us, and it's up to Christians to go out and to reach those people who haven't heard about Jesus. That's why this thing is so serious, because people are dying every day without hearing about Christ. So it's up to us, and God gives us the power to be able to go out and do these things. It's a huge responsibility, but we don't have to go it alone, and we couldn't do it alone. God Christ said He's going to be with us to the end of the age, and that's a humbling and an encouraging thing to think about. And I really don't want to make, it's tough talking about this. It's a hard subject to talk about because it makes God seem like He doesn't love. It makes God seem like He's somebody that doesn't care. But He truly does. He gave Himself up for us. But He will in no wise clear the innocent. Clear the guilty. And we're all guilty people. But He still shows His love to us by what He did for us on the cross. But He's given us His message to take out into the world. He's given us that responsibility. So it's up to us to go out and do the missionary work, because he's already done. He's finished paying for the sin debt. He's given us the message. We need to go out and take it out and be serious about spreading the gospel where you work, where you go to school at your job, at the grocery store, wherever there are people at, and living like Christ, loving people, and showing people that the church is more than just something that you go to on Sunday. It's something that you are. You need to be the church, not just go to church. Be the church. And I hope I answered your question. And I feel like I didn't go into detail into some of those things. So if you have anything else that I didn't really cover, or something that doesn't quite add up, I'm like old book, man. I'm wide open. Just say anything, ask anything, be right there. So I appreciate your likes, your comments, everybody's subscriptions. Really means a lot to me. Showing the love. I'm trying to show it back as much as I can. Thank you guys. Love all of y'all. And God bless you guys.